Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Fresno Writers Live at the Rogue 2021 Virtual Festival. My name is Courtney Ramirez, and I'm your Rogue Virtual Venue Manager today. And we are so glad you can join us from wherever you are for our last day of Rogue 2021. Thank you so much for coming. First of all, the 2021 Virtual Rogue Festival has been made possible by grants from the Cultural Arts Rotary Club of Fresno and the Synecdoche Works Foundation. We are so grateful to have donors such as them and Lori Williams, Brian Wickstrom, Brooke Russell, and all of you who buy wristbands and who make donations each and every year. For today's show, we're going to need you to help us out with the following. Please keep your microphone on mute to give our speakers all of the audience they deserve. If there's disruptive noise, our mods will mute you. So if you're not sure how to do that, we can take care of that for you. Please feel free to tip the performers if you are loving their show. Our mods will be adding links throughout the chat during the show and at the end of the show. I'd also like to thank Anne and Katie for providing Zoom support today and throughout this weekend. Rogue Festival is an all-volunteer organization, and we cannot do it without our volunteers. So thank you to the volunteers. 100% of the ticket receipts go directly to the artists at Rogue Festival, which is something that makes it so special. So thank you for supporting Rogue artists and independent performance in this very tough year. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jefferson Beavers.
Courtney, thank you so much. So grateful to be here with everyone today. Welcome everyone to our second show here at Fresno Writers Live, the Rogue Fest. Fresno State Creative Writing Program has been a part of the Rogue Fest in some way since 2006. Every year it's a little bit different. Our student groups usually take the lead. And I'm super privileged and excited to present the work of one of our student groups here today as part of the show, the Chicanx Writers and Artists Association, or we know them as CWAA or La CWAA. Last weekend, we had some wonderful readers from HI, the Hmong American Ink and Stories Club, and I'm always blown away by the extraordinary work of our graduate and undergraduate students at Fresno State. So first, a couple of quick housekeeping items. Big thanks to Courtney and her team, Katie and Anne, for managing the Zoom room today. Thank you. Also shouts out to Maider Vang, faculty at Fresno State. She helped us with some of the coaching and the practice run for this session. So we're really grateful to Professor Vang for that. And one recommendation, I'm going to be trying to keep up today, spotlighting our main speakers in speaker view. So if you'd like, you can view it however you'd like, but we'd recommend you try it in speaker view and you'll see our speakers up big screen on your screen. Okay, we have four exciting readers for you today. And again, I'm looking forward to introduce them. These are all members of the Chicanx Writers and Artists Association at Fresno State. Our first reader is L.S. Arévalo. She is a poet, a playwright, and writer originally from California's Central Coast. She's been published in Flies, Cockroaches, and Poets, Mujeres de Maíz, the San Joaquin Review, the Fresno City College Review, and in the University of Nevada, Reno's anthology, Basta, 100 Plus Latinas Against Gender Violence. She enjoys writing about indigenous cultures, gender, identity, and all relations. She also loves to sing and dance, and I have seen those videos on Instagram, so I know that is true. Please welcome our first performer today, L.S. Arévalo.
All right, thank you everybody for being here, for sharing this space. I want to start off with a land acknowledgement to be able to acknowledge, even though we are here in the Zoom space, we are each inhabiting different lands that are originally for indigenous folk. So here, like in Fresno, we have the Mono and the Yokuts. Perhaps, you know, when I hail from the lands of the Central Coast, we have the Chumash. And wherever you may be, let's take some time to just honor them for having been stewards and, you know, for taking care of this land for us that we sit on. So I do want to just kind of start off by just kind of honoring some of the divine influences, some of the influences that have been part of my life as well. This poem is called Departing Aslan Night Skies. When my soul nudges into this dream on this land pinched into 7 caves, the tint of Caliph Aslan poppies and prickly pears burst golden rouge waves beneath my skin. I study the traces of my glistened palms and trust, shadows casting glittered grooves. Central Coast sunrises yield from my Cihuateteo abuela and the Guerrillera mothers that bear the sun to light. I give rest to Tluzasihuat and Coyolxauhqui, mothers of earth and moon. They wake me to create, to destroy, to heal this dream. The next one is dedicated to Tlazolteo, the divinity of love, pregnancy, and temescales, and weaving. Gazing into Tlazolteo. Tlazolteo, I see you following me into smoky mirrors, shining back with obsidian curls, pricking thorns into my head while you crown yourself in crescents and cotton, wrapping me in my feminine with moons, gambles, and uncertainty. Combing the strands away from my face, you rake disgraced hair and rat nest knots through plastic teeth, pulling lint, lust, and lewdness. You braid brown waves of hair with whispers of sex, lies, and tell me tlazo means love. Late again, I sense your smirk and your stare, finger prick at my nape, at my gape. There you go, Tlazolteo, sweating out temptation, blurring out salt-beaded lines in favor of carnal debauchery, in favor of communing bodies veiled in crumpled sheets, tugging me to channel into the womanly divine, threading into me lines of nature's freedom, when really you're veiled with payments of pregnancy. Crouching, my cave unearths a ring I straddled at night, waiting for my reassurance of my lunar regulation. Call me Malinche when I rebel against you for fertilizing a seed in me. How did they know? Did they know? Do you know that they call you a filth eater? Do you know they call you a hag? I yield to you my sins, yield to undeniable forces of nature, yield to the cycles of love you bring, yield to the heated mounds of your temescal. I see you, Tlazolteo, stripping of womb sense and ease, you with your timeless broom and needles, weaving threads into looms and out from tangled chaos. Out of the grime and discard and into the protection of hearth, interwoven into something so beautiful, so fine. You won't argue with the blankets of wisdom, mother. I won't argue with you. You who tied knots to forgive my youth, doing stupid shit and other worldly corruption. You who straps lace and flower-spooled sheets, lay me beneath the San Marcos panther print blend, save me from skin loss, take me to other worlds. This next poem speaks to just the poly influence, a polyethnic background that I have, being that, I have the indigenous Mexican in me, the Purepecha ancestry, to my French ancestry, to my Spanish roots, right? And to the French in me, for example. This one's called Chicana Haiku. Smudged between sage spines, ancestral Zen softly hums neutral Satori. Purepecha eyes hammer bronze bell songs fluttered under harvest moons. Outward faced mirrors protect souls and chancletas resting by doorways. Yoshimitsu stoops upon ninja sword combos swung from a cable. Chopsticks clamp goldfish swimming in tapatio and lemon juice ponds. This next poem is called Clay Cup, and it really speaks to the petrichor of, how Tlaloc came through this week, and he was, with, the rain, the lightning, and even some hail that we had, which is really interesting. So here it goes. So wet, so innocent, so sweet, the scents from childhood. But when spring memories can't be held by the hand, scents and aromas fill porous crevices of my clay cup. Smells of clay, damp soil, soft, wet earth. The drops tin-tin chime on roofs and windows, Tlaloc's lullaby, nights of childhood. Earth scents drizzle in the ground, a moist and rich dark brown, soaked down to roots. Every time water is poured, is set, intimate scents tickle the mind and unfold the codices of calm. Within my tough clay mug, artisan flowers under flames spark sweet memories, not so beholden to the concept of time. Sculpted and defined, heated and glazed, hardened and cooled. So sweet, so deep, the childhood sets. This last excerpt is from a personal story, and it just talks about some of the different influences that impact us, and specifically on the strawberries from the California Central Coast. California strawberries never taste as delicious as when I pick them up from the farmer's stand on the side of Los Llanos Highway 1, freshly picked from moist earth, fragrantly sweet aroma, and ready to greet my lips. The Romans believed that strawberries had medicinal powers, as they somehow help cure depression. A bit different from the aphrodisiac chocolate-covered strawberries Angel surprised me with last Valentine's Day. I entertained this thought as I rinsed a batch, plucking out the green stars from the heart of the berry, tearing into the flesh caps with a paring knife into quarters for me to bite. My hands are covered in scarlet flesh, water running down my wrists and wicking into the cotton braids of my ojo de venado. I had worn this deer eye for 2 months for protection, to ward off bad energy and the threat of summer eclipses, according to my native tradition. I wash my hands, spread apart the red strings, and take off the protective pulsera. I spudge myself and the fallen seeds with a velvet gray smoke of dried sage bundle, and I place the ojo into the sink. Drops slink and clink onto an ojo. My hands are bare, yet they still feel heavy. This last piece is called Chiflidos, and really it's to call on to some of the influences from my father, the purépecha and this rebozo that I wear. Chiflidos. Father paces from the front yard to the backyard to his truck and into the distance, trudging his beaten leather boots pa acá, pa allá, as whistles fill the air with familiar Mexican melodies, siempre trabajando. Father paces to bare rectangles at the remate, his crying collection of things. Tireless, he tends to displays of objects for reselling, Securian metal pipes and tart strands. He lays to rest the cloths, tucking in the bare asphalt to sell power tools and sound systems. Edith Piaf serenades the air along with his chiflidos as he disentangles the webs of wires and lost cables. Surprise shocks jolting from a chinga. Father paces to his animalitos, his crying corals of creatures. Seemingly tireless, he fills their troughs with water, grain, corn, tortillas, and bread, aiding hungry bodies and entertaining him with his whistles, lullabies to the growing animals. Father paces to his terrenitos, his crying plots of plants. Seemingly tireless, he tends to fragile seeds he gently lays into rich soil, fortifying earthen stalks to verdant vibrancy. Father's swollen, calloused, wrinkled hands, tanned and scarred from decades of reaping the Central Coast fields, piscaba lechugas, chícharo, árbol, chile de árbol, habanero, brocolí, coliflor, tomate, jitomate, limón, naranja, maíz, cilantro, papa, uva. His keen blades slicing and bloodshot eyes scanning, steady strides stepping in brazen weather of pouring rain, menacing rays and turbulent winds, always enduring strained backs, cuts, coughs, and pesticides. El quien brought home the brown boxes of donated food bank foods to bring the salvage remains to our table, the orphan flowers for me to arrange. Off again he goes to feed the flocks of pigs, chickens, and goats on his small cherished plot of land removed from home. Wiping a poor night's rest away from his eyes, he unearths in an instant to nourish needy homes, construction yards, and bodies. Thomas and Miranda will never know it was Delfino's hands which plucked the crisp elements of their spring garden salad. Thank you.
Thank you so much. L.S. Arévalo, everyone. My goodness. I always really love your imagery, the way you conjure your ancestors and bring them to the present. So many things in your poems. Thank you so much. Before we get to our second reader, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the CWAA leadership, Chicanx Writers and Artists Association. First and foremost, Mariah Bosch, who had to work this afternoon. I don't think she could join us. Mariah organized today's readers, and she's such a fantastic poet in her own right. Also, thank you to Graciela Sierra Moreno, the Vice President, and Aidan Castro, the Secretary, for their leadership. And I know that CWAA's recent past president, Esmeralda Gamez, is in the session today. So much praise and respect to the leadership of CWAA for their incredible work in lifting up not just Latinx and Chicanx voices, but all voices, especially Indigenous voices. Our second reader tonight is Bradley Samore, and I know his mom and dad are in the audience, so I want to give them a shout out too. Thanks for joining us today. Bradley studies poetry and works as a writing consultant at Fresno State. After earning his undergraduate degree, he taught English and coached basketball in Asturias, Spain. And then he returned to the US to teach in Florida, North Carolina, and now, of course, in California. Bradley's writing has been featured in various publications, including the West Texas Literary Review, Cloud Bank, and others. And just last week, he placed first place in Fresno State's fourth annual Art Song Festival with an absolutely beautiful poem that was then taken by a vocalist and music composer and performed live on Zoom. And it was a really extraordinary experience when watching the recording. So I'm very pleased to welcome to read today our second reader, Bradley Samore.
Hey everyone, it's good to be with everyone, albeit digitally, but still together here. Thanks, Jefferson. That was a very kind introduction. And I just always appreciate your kindness and generosity of spirit. And then also thanks to Mariah and the other leaders of CWAA, and then Courtney, Katie, and Anne, the facilitators here today from RogueFest. So I'll be reading 5 poems. The first 3 poems speak directly about the pandemic and quarantine that we've experienced over the last year or so. And this first poem was written about 10 days into when we first were told to kind of lock things down. And we didn't know the extent of things at that time. It's called Across Quarantine. Above our city, a helicopter gargles through straits of stars. A car slices what used to be rush hour. We have abandoned touch. Outside my window, a tree opens to the hum of a street light. There are branches only sound can reach. After we hang up, you text me to apologize for rambling about eyebrow pencils. Don't you know your call unveiled me? What can I do to remind you you are alive? This next poem was written this last August, and for those who are, I think most everybody here is in California, you'll recall the intense wildfires during that time, so that kind of imagery comes up, and I'm using a Malay form called the pantun, so you'll hear different lines kind of interweaving throughout. It's called The Local News Makes a Comparison, and you'll hear the line, you know, the smoke was so bad, there was the local news said, the Fresno Bee, there was a line that said, being outside is like smoking a pack of cigarettes. The local news makes a comparison. I telecommute 10 hours at the kitchen table in blood orange light sliced by the blinds, soul draining through cheesecloth of wildfire smoke that has thickened to appall. blood orange sliced by plastic blinds, every hour thinner across the carpet, avoiding smoke that thickens and appalls. I walk in my living room between clients, every hour thinner across the carpet. I look out over the hedge's new leaves on my living room walk between clients. Being outside is like smoking a pack of cigarettes. Beyond the hedge's new leaves, 5-year-olds carrying off the neighborhood cat. Smoking a pack of cigarettes is like being outside. Rosalia and Gwen in pink glitter jelly sandals. 5-year-olds carrying on without face masks. 12 days without a fleck of blue sky. Rosalia and Gwen run in pink glitter jelly sandals. I order glasses that block blue light. What shade of blue is the sky? A town 474 miles away is on fire. I ordered glasses that block blue light. What am I doing that really matters? A town 38 miles away might soon be on fire. I telecommute 10 hours at the kitchen table. What am I? Soul draining through cheesecloth. And this third poem is entitled Sunrise. It was written as we were waiting collectively for the final results of, it was after November 7th, but as we were waiting for the final results of the presidential election, and we were just kind of coming into kind of the colder months here in Fresno. It's entitled Sunrise. In case someone else is out this early, I grab a face mask my mom made of gray and white paisley cotton, bringing to mind her brother's email, my aunt with stage 4 liver cancer, my uncle's confession. I am working hard to hold it all together and remember our wedding vows. She tells me she always thought she would be the one caring for me. I step into security light that casts my shadow behind me upon the door. We turn to each other and lock the handle. At the street corner, my eyes wax beyond the curb. Duncan Poly High School, Vallarta Supermarket, a thinning range of valley oak, the obelisk of an Italian cypress, tinged by the overcast sunrise I can only believe in, the few fault lines between clouds just beginning to brighten. The streetlights go out, and the trails of snail slime laid on the sidewalk at once glisten less. My need to hug goes nowhere. 2 rose bushes flank the iron gate back to the apartments, each bud arranging its hearth of stamens, each bloom a blaze of alabaster, around which the season's last bees thrum halos. I heard someone say relatively recently, that all poems relate to mortality in some way, others in our own, some may call it the shortness of time, that's what pushes us to our actions. I recently came across a poem by Hae-Jung Kook entitled A Consolation Permitting Mourning. And if you read poetry a lot, maybe you came across 2 other poems with similar titles, one by Adrienne Rich, one by John Donne. And both of theirs were entitled A Valediction, Forbidding Mourning. So we got, these multiple voices kind of commenting on, what to do in this process of grief. So I thought I'd add my voice to the conversation, focusing on, since not everyone cries when mourning. Everybody mourns in their own way. And this is entitled A Benediction, Permitting the Absence of Tears While Mourning. Bereft, be left on the outcrop, though others cry. Departure takes its own directions. Let it move through fissures of granite, down hillside, into hayfield, to collapse and howl into the earth, which this too, the earth, will accept. Give grief its wandering into museums to resent or envy any curated past, or to loiter in foyers and stare at lightning. I'll remove its leash, accompany its roving, and sit alongside it on the grass by the road to listen to the doves' plangent cooing. And this last poem is for Dokai, AKA Ron Georgeson. He is the teacher at Hokyoji, a Zen practice community in the Minnesota countryside. And I was really fortunate to receive lots of healing and guidance while being there. And it's for, yeah, like I said, it's for Dokai, the teacher, and it's entitled, There Was Never a Door. Minutes before the opening act of the play of dusk, the wind lifts the overcast curtain, and the sun, descending into the trees, lances light through matrices of branches out onto the meadow and forested hills beyond Hokyoji, where shadows slash and point to an abandoned shed, empty, except for a white plastic chair, a used bag of Miracle Grow, and leafy vines that have entered through the door frame and search over the wooden floor on which I stand and listen to the tuning of insects and watch through its two windows, fireflies like brief planets arrive. Thank you.
Bradley, thank you so much. Your work has grown so much in this past year. Bradley read with us this past year at the Rogue. It was one of the last in-person things that we did at Fresno State last spring. And it's a real pleasure to see how much your work has grown over the past year. Congratulations. Before we get to our third reader, I have a couple of shouts out to people in the session today. I want to acknowledge several of our English department faculty, in particular, Mai Der Vang, Bryn Saito, and my fellow alum, Carol Firstman. Shouts out to all of you. Thanks for taking time out of your day to support these students today. Also, a very special shouts out to participant Keith Wilson today. I think he's probably joining us from the Midwest. He's a wonderful poet. And Keith, I'm grateful that you could join us today. Our third reader is Cristina Sandoval. And I'm super excited to introduce her today as a Fresno writer. Cristina is a Chicana poet from Modesto. She discovered her love of writing at a young age, always creating stories and playing with both dolls and words. She received her bachelor's degree in TESOL, or Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, from Stanislaus State in Turlock, and she is now studying for her MFA in poetry here at Fresno State. Cristina hopes to one day be a published writer and to be part of a larger writing community. And I've been watching Cristina's Instagram and watching all of her visual exploration in this last year and a half that she's been in the program. And let me tell you, my friends, she already has arrived. I'm super excited to welcome Cristina Sandoval.
Thank you so much, Jefferson. Thank you, everyone, for putting this together. I'm so grateful to be part of this group of writers. I'm just honored. So my work focuses mostly on family, lineage, even trauma, just basically the breadth of life, right? So my last two poems will be my visual poems, and the first few poems are just I'm just gonna read to you. So the first one that I have is called 1991, and it deals with kind of a memory that I have of watching a VHS of my mother reading a poem. So it's very nostalgic to me. So here it goes. 1991. My mother nurtures the words from her breath, extracts my tío Pancho's ode to their mother like juice from the lemons on my grandmother's tree, pours it into the listening room, and like miel de maguey, she sweetens the Spanish verse. We used to serenade Mama Eva at dawn on Mexican Mother's Day. We'd gather outside her window and sing Las Mañanitas. Watching my mother read on an old home video carries me back. I can smell the embroidered tortilla warmer on the dining table. My jelly shoes tap on the scuffed linoleum. I can taste the warm soda my grandmother would keep in the bottom cabinets, the ones I would sneak into when we slept over. I hardly know this young woman, vibrant in her late 30s, wearing a bright orange coat and huge turtle shell glasses. I do not remember how the poem goes. I can barely hear her. I just remember my tias and tios and primos and primas huddled around her flame. I wonder why she didn't tell me more stories, or if she did, why couldn't I hear them? So that's the first poem. The second poem kind of deals with a traumatic event that happened when I was a child. It's not too terribly in detail, but it just kind of deals with the emotion of dealing with something like that. So it's called Flight. Maybe I gave up as a child because my wings were enormous, until my abuser tore them from my flesh, until he clawed out my milk teeth and baby fat. He was a doctor with brimstone hands, hands meant to pacify, molded a nightmare. I regrew toward scoliosis, turned my spine into a monument to shrinking, turned small hands to powder kegs, turned a girl into misery. I've talked to this girl every night. She insists she's not flightless. I let her dream. So that's that one. The next one is one that I've been kind of experimenting with, the form, the order, I mean. So I decided to just do it this way, which is CBA. So it's kind of backwards, right? So they're in sections. C. I guess I've lied to you. I've wept in public. I've pulled the thread that unravels me during holidays and birthday parties. B. I'll admit it. I've broken down every other day this entire week. The sun sets too early. The plague sits on its haunches at my doorstep like it's not obvious. A. The sun did not rise. The world going pitch black was normal. Light only lasted minutes. We'd travel to the beach and dig our toes into the sand near the shore, never going too far before the darkness enveloped us. And when home returned, my room could have boiled over with sunshine. So that one was, and I forgot to explain that that was inspired by a very strange dream that I had, where basically night kept dropping or coming into the sky, and we were at a beach, and I don't know, the light kept disappearing, and I just thought it was such a strange dream. I had to write about it. So the next one is was inspired by a class that I'm taking right now, creative nonfiction, where we had this conversation of eulogy versus elegy. So we were wondering, where would we have our eulogy if we could choose it? So this is kind of what came out of that. They draw out my eulogy in my childhood home's backyard. They are barefoot. I asked them to never forget how awful I was. I asked them, before it happened, to remember my yellow teeth, my dry scalp, my sharp mouth. Behind smoke, behind the shadows of each tree, beneath the blades of grass, my fingers, tender, silvery haze, reach for the attendees' hair. I try to braid my story into their crowns. In unison they cry. From the earth, my cloudy ears listen. There is no priest, but the sermon from their tongues gallops to my ears. We gather here today to remember a girl, a deep well of love, and a race of wolves. Remember her brown eyes and her bad coordination. May she rest in the power of never finding her perfect footing. So that was that one. And let's see, I have one more that I'm going to read to you, and two that are going to be images that I will show you. This one deals with family history, but with a little bit of a fantastical twist. I'm taking a class with the wonderful Mai Der Vang this semester, and she kind of pushed us to try to fracture the images, kind of go a little bit beyond what we consider normal. So I decided to kind of do a little something with a little bit of family history. The context is my great-grandfather actually was part of the Mexican Revolution. He was alongside Pancho Villa, and because of that, Emiliano Zapata, but he was very young. He was just a young boy, maybe 12 or 13. So, but this is it. Emiliano Zapata digs his teeth into revolution, while my Papa Roque, grandfather to my mother, raises the Mexican flag with his child hands. He never said it, but I read it in his eyes, even when he had never told us through his Alzheimer's. His ojos marrones were cinema to my young mind. Zapata had claws. His mustache worked like tentacles, reached into the ruined torsos of his enemies. He danced every night at 3 a.m. and sang El Himno in the wrong key. Papa Roque played the record backwards one day, years later, and it sounded like the wailing of mothers without children, and my paternal grandfather's mysterious father laughing from beneath a bed of goose feathers. So that was my very strange poem, but it was a lot of fun to write. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. And this is also inspired by family history, but also just as part of a fascination that I've kind of developed recently. So I'm going to share this one. This is called Por Bulería. I have this fascination recently with like Spanish, flamenco, and there's a little bit of family history there too, because we have a lot of Spanish blood going back on my mother's side. But I was fascinated by this idea of bulería. And I give the little definition here. And these last two poems kind of deal with a traumatic friendship that I had, which ended. But yeah, so here's the definition. The name bulerías comes from the Spanish word burlar, meaning to mock, or bulería, racket, shouting, din. It is the style which permits the greatest freedom for improvisation, the meter playing a crucial role in this. So this is the poem. You have made homes out of mis sesos, torn the corners of my mouth, made the night into dry laughter as the moon puzzles into everything, into every beautiful piece of you. In the glow of the right lamp, you still shine, stars sharp on my flesh. In my milky eyes, you were always caramel and cream. You have bought, own, mis celos. Carcelera, carcelera, sangrada carcelera. So that's that one. And I will share my screen with you one last time, and this will be my final poem. This same theme, it has to do with a traumatic friendship that I had. And there's no title other than tercas. Tercas being a Spanish word for stubborn. We were both very stubborn, so there's a little give and take there. So here we go. Terca, 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 terca. I've been told I should burn this. I've been told, I've been told, I've been told living with your friendship was shadow play, where I played the stone wall. You believed in you. You believed in you. And I believed in you. You believed in you. And I believed in you. You believed in you. And I believed in you. And I believed in you. My flesh, with the imprint of my own crooked teeth, a hangnail pulled too hard, made the blood a landing strip, made the blood a landing strip, made the blood a landing strip, made the blood a landing strip. And you say I'm dramatic. De luto estoy, de luto estoy, estoy. It's been 3 years since you unstitched me, turned my needle body into sand. The knots you created continue to hang down to my knees, begin at my crown. I've mourned us for so long, and I can't go back to your furious mouth because I know the storm will spill forth from it into my lap, and I will think of us again, and I will weep, drown from it in this abandoned bathroom stall. It's been maybe 2 days since you unstitched me, turned my needle body into sand. The knots you created continue to hang down to my knees, begin at my crown. I've mourned me for so long, and I can't go back to your furious mouth because I know how the storm will spill forth from it into my lap, and I will think of me again, and I will weep, drown from it in this graffitied bathroom stall. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening.
Cristina, thank you so much. Extraordinary series of poems, particularly your visual ones. Cristina is part of a very tight-knit group of poets and performers in Modesto, and I'm glad to see a little bit of that Modesto voice joining with the Fresno voice and see the explorations of form. Thank you. I have a couple more shouts out before we get to our final reader, folks who are in the session today that I want to acknowledge. Thanks so much to Shirley Brugman, Jackie Ryle for coming, two of our biggest supporters of all creative writing students. I'm grateful for you being here. And also an old friend popped in, my Salvi sister, Cynthia Warlado from Southern California. Thanks for joining today. Another accomplished poet and CWAA alumna. And of course, JJ Hernandez, Jacob is in the house tonight, also a CWAA alumnus as well. So thanks everybody for joining us, and to all of you for coming out to support these Fresno writers. Our fourth and final reader today is Hermelinda Hernandez Monjaras. And she gave me like a one-sentence bio, but you know, I'm gonna read more than that because I want to. Hermelinda is an aspiring poet. She majors in English at Fresno State with an emphasis in creative writing. She is a person who embodies her poetry in a way that that I don't see very often, and I'm always in awe of her work. Hermelinda is the current winner of the Mireda Barraza Martinez Prize for Social Justice Writing at Fresno State. And she will also be showing a couple of her pieces visually, as Cristina had just done. Please welcome Hermelinda Hernandez Monjaras.
Hello, I am Hermelinda, and I will start off by sharing. Just give me one moment. Just glorify it in the silence. Okay, so here it goes. I hope you guys can see this.
Yes, we can see it well, Ceci. If you can, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Roma, city limit. Population 9765. US, warning signs, gun sign. The average response time of a 911 call is 23 minutes. The response time of a 357 is 1400 feet per second. Flag sign, no trespassing. Proud to be American. Prohibido el paso. Caution sign, family crossing. Mother, father, daughter. US Army National Guard units use thermal imagery technology to stop anyone from crossing the river. Border Patrol return to the Mexican side. Caught on smartphone. Abandoned building. Crossers hiding among bats. Crossers run like deer on highways. Residents. Mexican descendants. Always on the lookout. Fear gang members. Want regulation and enforcement. If they did not cross the river, where would we be? Border Patrol. Boats scan the river. People no longer go near. No longer a picnic or park area, overgrown with bush and weed. If the wall is built, people will lose their homes and birds their sanctuary. What right do you have from taking my home? Border crossers are driven to the U.S. detention center 50 miles away. They spent their life savings paying smugglers only to find themselves detained by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection vans like bad hombres. Rio Grande, 300 miles, 500 kilometers. More than 1,000 immigrants cross per month, mostly Central Americans. I am swept behind trees, my body murky and dirty green. I listen the way a river is supposed to listen. Men paddle across. They bring with them mothers, children, young men. Everything is normal. You wouldn't know they're different, except their skin betrays them. Meanwhile, another group of men smuggle narcotics. Above, blimps with cameras surround my body. Blimps which have become a virtual border wall. Surveillance me from breathing. Smugglers by the riverbank. Border Patrol. Return to the Mexican side. No dejan pasar para vivir una vida buena. Patrol. Smugglers seldom carry weapons. In the dark and chilly evening, Border Patrol strip adults and children. Shoes, shoelaces, shirts, and toys. Searching weapons. One agent gathers their belonging in a plastic bag. A boy removes layers of shirts. Another agent removes a boy's jacket, searches his stomach and under his pants. Meanwhile, his mother blankly stares. The boy spreads his arms without complaint. Somewhere behind the camera, a child screams. She won't let go of her mother, her only sanctuary. México. Hay algo oscuro en el viento. Tiemblo de tanto miedo. Daría esta vida sin pensarlo 2 veces. Para escapar hay que luchar. Soy capaz de olvidar. Esto ya no es vivir. Me estoy ahogando en la noche. Siempre te recordaré. Me pregunto qué me espera. El peligro. Estoy dispuesto a sacrificarlo todo por mis hijos. Estoy cansado. Solo quiero un poco de agua, algo de comer. Extraño a mi familia. No puedo dejar de preocupar. Estoy tan cerca de la muerte, ni el miedo queda. Rezo por un buen pasaje. Pase lo que pase, no hagas ni un ruido. Aquí viene la migra. No llores, sé fuerte. No dejaré que te lastimen. No dejaré que nos separen. Lágrimas son como sudor. Te amo siempre. El viento llora de tanta rabia. Continúa el canto de los pájaros. Ubicación, sonido de advertencia, notas agudas, siempre cantan con dolor, siempre con la ilusión de un mejor futuro. And now I will read another one. And this is called I'm tired of being labeled dreamer, illegal, alien, beaner. Go back to where you belong. Stop stealing. Our jobs are stolen. And years not knowing that will take over, which policies will dictate my life, whether we stay static with no hope or dance with worry in the coming months. I'm tired of reading the news and finding dead bodies and cage on social media. Environments blame as if we were lesser than migras, as if the color of our skin equaled inferior, tired of their bad negligence, listening to Trump blaming us for drugs and cartels, tired of his lies and crimes. Is this what it means to be burned and still age twice as fast? Are we so little as to live under citizen scrutiny, to serve them fresh fruits and vegetables for a few short dollars, to ache every night in chronic fields or eaten by fatties? Are we just flesh and bones conditioned? Are we just dispersions of chaos? Does the wind carry our regrets while we continue to plow? Why is it so hard to say what's on our minds? Why is it illegal to want? Why do we forget the simple things such as freedom? Why are we sorry for everything? Why do we conform when we're given nothing? We have always been human, yet we're robbed so easily. Our colonized skin, our battered brains. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you feel the weight of these words? Or am I just a rant, just disappearing? Someday you'll write of our insanity, lack of education, our savagery. You will say illegal immigrants this, illegal immigrants that, but not once will you apologize. You'll celebrate us each year with our tacos y sombreros y música y arte. You'll seek us in your spiritual awakening. You'll journey to our land and no one will kick you out. You'll never despair in the idea of never belonging. History will record of our bad hombres y morenas or erase us completely. We'll be aggrieved like all genocides. Hashtag Indigenous Lives Matter over mind over matter. And I have another one. Language. Always lost in its translation, always begging to be heard, to be spoken. I push muscle into structure, but the words never accent. I use Google Translate to say, siempre estoy soñando de algo que no puedo tocar. I shut my eyes to something I can't. Beneath planes of visionary dreams, layers where memory encapsulates that which I can't bridge. I search for a 5-year-old me. To a girl reflected in mirror and rivers and the conundrum of city lights, I mumble in layers of static. My mother can't speak. She says, era una pesadilla. Whatever it was spoken in secret, I float further away. My mother, I float further away from my mother, from this holy something surrounding her tongue. I carve a map between us, anything that can bring this minor feeling closer, but sometimes I am no longer Zapoteco, no longer my colonized Spanish or enough of anything, just a nasty expression that demands a repetition. On YouTube, viewers elicit the strange proclamation when foreigners speak English. They're praised as if English meant intellect. They forget the years of oppression. Each comment demands translation as if it it could structure history, but what bothers me most is how I search for a piece of myself in different tongues from different nations. Like Chavela Vargas once sang, El Arroyo del Olvido, running from all that is Mexican, all that is American consonant, from telenovelas bleached into the same white existence, where I'm not shaped in their image. I'm simply un antepasado, alienated and non-existent, and I'm supposed to be proud to be Mexican. I grew up not knowing I would one day be torn from this bone I call Zapoteco. I grew up not knowing these dirt roads, canopy of Oaxaca, would one day blur thousands of miles between languages. I remember Jehovah Witnesses knocking on the door, always clean-cut men and women, always with the forced walk on the side of Fresno, where crime was a daily reminder of division and erasure. Each time I would let them know I'm not interested. They would raise their eyebrows and say, your English is very good for a Mexican. Before I knew it, I began speaking English at home more than I meant to. Just like when I arrived from Oaxaca speaking only Zapoteco, I was scolded for not knowing Spanish. And when I learned both languages, the last trace of Zapoteco had long since left me, or I abandoned it completely. I know I haven't really spoken a lot while I'm reading, and I know I sound like a very angry person. And sometimes, you know, like when you're an outsider, I think poetry lets you, yeah, just unravel all those emotions. And I'm gonna be one more, very short and brief. Yeah. And this is a very mild one. It's more, it's very short, and it's a feeling. I don't understand this feeling. It's the closest feeling that I can think of that is love. I find you in scattered wind, the flowered satellites, under wooden cloud. Listen, the radio speaks, dreams, and river. Sequenced into breath, twilight, into taste. Thank you.
Hermelinda, thank you so much. Let's just take a second to be in silence for a moment with Hermelinda's incredible words. Thank you everyone again for being here today. These extraordinary writers from the Chicanx Writers and Artists Association make me proud every day to be from Fresno, to be Chicano, to be from Fresno State. What extraordinary voices they are, that they have. Thank you for being here to share this space with us today. I'm grateful for you supporting them through the Rogue Festival.